आप सबों को नमस्कार. Good morning to all of you. Mr. MP Narayanan, very senior and respected colleague, Major General Shiv Kumar ji, Mr. Mittal, Mr. Shambhu Singh, and my friend Ravi. Thanks a lot for inviting me for this. I had to keep a promise, which I had made to you some time back. So I'm really happy to be with all of you on this occasion. Friends, I don't have the power of a PowerPoint, which is usually the current practice these days. Let me just share some of my thoughts with you. I'm also not an IT person, you see, and I have a very general understanding of security and IT, and I was very happy to listen to Major General Shiv Kumar and Mr. Sanjeev Mittal about this, clarifying my own understanding about it. But I think let me speak a bit more, share with you this whole thing about disaster management, which is because we are talking of National Conference on ICT in public safety, security, and disaster management. See, disaster management, thanks ironically to Japan and the latest tragedy, multiple complex tragedy which has taken place there, has practically become a byword, you see. So I'll talk to you about that. But before that, let me also briefly just mention what I do. I work as Vice Chairman in the Bihar State Disaster Management Authority, which is a statutory body set up under the provisions of Disaster Management Act passed by Parliament in 2005. The National Disaster Management Authority, which is headed by the Prime Minister, is also a creation of the same Act. The Act lays down that every state would have a State Disaster Management Authority, which will be chaired by the Chief Minister, and who will then nominate Vice Chair and then certain other members who are experts in the field. The Vice Chair in the National Disaster Management Authority has been given the status of a Cabinet Minister, and the other members of MOS and the government of Bihar decided to follow the same pattern, you see. I think in my own humble understanding, this whole development of the Act and then the creation of authorities headed by the Prime Minister and Chief Ministers, that is at the highest level, is a realization of the fact of the emerging and growing importance of the subject and the need to push it up, in terms of its understanding, management, response, and whatever it is at the highest level of the government, you see. Because there is, while disasters are local, you see, in nature, but any major disaster becomes a hugely complex affair, you see, and which requires the involvement of practically whole of government and large number of actors and players even beyond the government, you see, whether they are national or international, as we have seen and we'll be talking about it, from time to time. Now, Bihar State Disaster Management Authority is a very recent body. It has, apart from me, Chief Minister, myself, and there are two members. One is Professor A.S. Arya, who is a renowned earthquake specialist, engineer, and one is retired DG of police, you see. And we are also looking forward to having at least a couple of more members, you see. So those of you who would be interested to locate yourself in Bihar and willing to work, with Bihar State Disaster Management Authority are most welcome, you see. I am sure you know about the great development story which is unfolding in the state of Bihar. But let me assure you that I have myself gone back to the state of Bihar after 15 long years, you see. Though I belong to the Indian Administrative Service, allotted to Bihar cadre, served there right from a block upwards, you see. But then when I got out, somehow I was out for a long time. But it's a great challenge and a huge opportunity to go back to Bihar and work there, you see. And I can tell you that those who really look for excitement, and challenges, please come and join hands, and you will never regret it, you see. Now, the way in the last couple of weeks we have seen, disasters literally knocking, the feeling which I get is like if you are staying in a hotel, in a room, you see, then you suddenly sometime either in the night or during the day, you hear some light knocks, you see, taking place. By the time you rush to the door, you open, you see there is nothing, you see. But maybe by the time this knock has traveled to another, you know, door, and where it has barged in, you see, it has crashed. And then, it doesn't give any opportunity. See, that is the way the things have happened, you see. We had a severe, massive, one of the worst, not one of the, but definitely the worst disaster which has happened in Japan, you see. We look at it as to what happened and how they responded. Uh, but then after that, we have also seen how week after week and day after day, you see, disasters have been just knocking around, you see. Even near about Delhi, you see, NCR region and all that, and which is a very, very frightening kind of a scenario, you see. And I'm using the word of my Chief Minister, Honorable Mr. Nitish Kumar, who only last week said कि अनिल जी what is happening वो बहुत ही डराने वाली चीज़ है, you see. कहाँ से ये बात सही है? And in the state of Bihar, which is also seismically vulnerable, and the whole of the state lies in three zones: zone 5, 4, 3. So there is absolutely no portion of the state which is not in a seismic zone, you see. And yet the perception about earthquake was rather low in Bihar, you see. But thanks and very, very tragically and ironically to what has happened in Japan, now suddenly there is a great interest in Bihar, greater interest, some enhanced sensitiveness, and I suppose in the country also, you see, which is good thing, as far as our own preparedness and response, etc., are concerned, you see. Uh, you see, I'll give you the example of how things have happened. Japan, we know, you see, the sequence of events are known 9 on the Richter scale, and earthquake, which is again unprecedented. It has never happened, it never touched literally 9. And Japan earlier had an earthquake. You want to close it? Earlier had an earthquake in the city of Kobe, where I worked, you see, for some time, which was 7.3, if I recall, you see. And this 8.9 or 9 was not twice, 4 times, 10 times, 50 times, or 100 times bigger, you see. You can't imagine. It was 1400 times, stronger in terms of release of energy than Kobe, you see. Now, Japan undoubtedly is the best prepared country in the world, you see. Not only I, but many of the experts who appeared on CNN, BBC, etc., in the recent weeks, since 11th March, they have said this, you see. They had prepared for the worst, you see, but their worst was around 8, you see, 8 on the Richter scale, or maybe slightly above 8. And they were beaten because this kind of a thing, and that too, it happens at a location, at a depth, that it then generates, a large tsunami, you see. And then we have seen the destruction because of tsunami. If you have closely watched, you see the losses and damage due to earthquakes have been almost negligible, you see. They have coped very well with the earthquake, you see. We will of course have detailed reports coming in, but many preliminary reports have already come. I was in Ahmedabad last week, and a professor from Kyoto, he who had made a preliminary assessment, you see, he was there, he also presented. And we have been seeing that, and if you have watched the last week's tremors of 7.34, you see, where the whole city of Tokyo It's a very unusual kind of a video where you see the city of Tokyo trembling, you see, like this, because they have large number of these closed circuit, you see, cameras which are installed at all kinds of places, you see. But one thing which is notable and remarkable as far as the response of the government, of the people of Japan, I will say, the citizen, the common people, is how they responded, you see. And I will give two examples which I have mentioned, elsewhere also. One is of their NHK office, you see. NHK is their national television. And the second is of a shopping mall, you see. Now, if you look at the NHK television, footage, you see, then there you see that you can see the vibrations, things tumbling down, computers, etc., all those things going down. But then the employees, the officials, they are first assessing as to what is happening because they are used to these vibrations. They shake almost every day, almost every minute, you see, that you can feel when you are in Japan, you see. So first is the assessment, they observe. They're looking at each other, even talking, exchanging glances, etc., observing. And when they find that, you see, no, this is something not usual, you see, something unusual is happening. It is something which is strong, which is straying. Then they start taking the actions, which you are advised, do's and don'ts, you see, ducking under the table, etc. And then the most interesting and inspiring is the case of one employee within that who, while he is trying to duck, at the same time he is also keying in and typing the last bit of message which he must send because he is an NHK, National television employee, you see, and it is his duty, to send the last dispatch, whatever is possible in that situation. In the second video of a shopping mall, and I suppose number of these, including these two, are available on the net. You only have to go on, just Google Japan earthquake, tsunami, etc. You get all of them. There again, the first phase of response is more or less the same. But a big mall does not have the tables, you see. They have shelves and things are tumbling down from the shelf, you see. And then, you see, once they have assessed, then they are not panicking. They are not running helter-skelter, you see, in neither of the two cases. Then they hold very strongly to the shelf, you see, till the situation stabilizes, you see. Now, this as far as the immediate response is concerned. After that, we have also seen the response of the whole community as far as the relief camps are concerned. As far as the media is concerned, I mean, it is interesting to go over this again and again and then, do a critical analysis. I mean, I'm not saying trash our media. I suppose our media is also doing a great job. Yet, I suppose there are areas where we need to learn a lot, you see, that in this kind of one of the gravest or perhaps the gravest kind of a situation, how they are coming, back to the people, you see. What kinds of pictures, what kinds of images, I don't think one has seen large number of dead bodies or, people sort of shouting or the snatching and things like that, unruly scenes, etc., which somehow or the other happens in our country, you see. Now, I'll just like to relate this thing as to why did they respond like this, you see, compared to what usually happens, you see. So, I recall what I read in the Time magazine, you see, and the issue is 23rd June 2008. Those who are interested can note it and get it. You see, the cover page itself is How to Survive a Disaster. They have discussed 3 case studies and one is of 9/11, which happened in New York, you see. And there the case which they have discussed is that of Morgan Stanley, you see. I'm not getting into the case, but suffice it to say, they occupied 23 floors. They were the biggest, you see, tenants in that building. There are 3,000 employees working in that, you see, and 2,993 of them. And this is the study done by Time magazine, and there is another study by Harvard Business Review that also you can see, where the figure is not 7 but 13, that 7 people were killed or 13 people were killed, you see. Rest all of